everybody. I'm doing a 60-minute session for Delinda. Delinda, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you. And thank you so much for sharing with us here on YouTube. All right. There's no specific goals, so we're going to go as guided by spirit. And there's going to be some awesome psychic wisdom and energy healing for you today. I want to let you guys know Delinda is part of my Patreon community. She's on the master tier, so this is a free gift to get a monthly 60-minute session. If you're interested in checking out what I'm doing on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Abbey Normal's Wisdom Quest. If you're interested in just checking out an individual session for yourself, go to my website at abbeynormalswisdomquest.com. I'm doing individual sessions there, psychic mentoring. There's lots of content. All right, I'm going to relax and we're going to get tuned in. We'll find out what is the most meaningful wisdom, most meaningful healing that I can share with you right now. Okay, I'm going to relax now. Here we go. Okay. Your head is like a top, and we're talking about, here it is, fun toy, there's the floor, spin it, your head is going round and round and round in a circle, really, really fast on this hard floor, and it's just doing what tops do, okay? There it goes, I'm watching it, it's spinning, it's even kind of circulating around a little bit, I'm waiting for it to stop, but it doesn't stop. And you're really nervous because when I go to touch the top, which is your head, you get very nervous about me stopping this. And I'm not necessarily stopping it in a way that the merry-go-round is going around and around really fast and then just stop it. And it's like jerking my arms out of the socket. No. We're just gently slowing the spin down. It's kind of natural, you know, gently slowing the spin down and then just letting you to rest your head, okay? Oh, wow. You're still in some place spinning really fast, but we're kind of targeting this human world, and a majority of your human energy is choosing to consciously perceive yourself as resting. I'm going to explain because there's a lot of detail here and it's blowing my mind, okay? So I have one word at a time. I will explain the scene. All right. You have you and 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 you. We have this other dimensional space where you're still spinning. We have this human who is saying, I am slowing down. Oh, I'm resting now. But nothing is really collected and nothing's really, it's not coming together. And the solid decisions aren't being made. Because we even have to have a dimensional space where you're still spinning because you haven't solidly chosen to just rest yet. So that's still an activity taking place. And this is like undecided selves. This is a little horrific. The next scene's a bit jolting and painful. I don't know how to understand it. Let's just define it as a really gross rat. You know what this reminds me of? All right, when I was a kid, there was this movie. It was like from the 80s, early 90s, and it was like about this witch who had many witches, and they were coming to this assembly, and somehow they take children and they eat them. Okay, they're really those kind of witches. They're really gross. They take off their beautiful faces, and then you see these gross witches underneath, and they're at this assembly. There's something having to do with rats, okay? Almost like they're trying to turn everybody in this whole hotel into rats, something like this. There's some kind of potion, and this is going to make it easier to capture and eat these children or people. Something like this, okay? Well, the High Witch is the grossest, most nastiest witch of them all. And she ends up turning I mean, I don't want to give the story away, but you can imagine we have an issue here where they're trying to turn people into rats. Maybe gets turned on the witches, right? She's the nastiest, most disgusting, most grossest freaking rat of them all, okay? She already was kind of a nasty rat. Rats are actually very clean, adorable animals, so they get a bad rep. They don't deserve it. Guess if they're living in a sewer, maybe. All right, so there's a gross, nasty, big, like 10-foot tall, grossest rat of all time, okay? And it's coming in here, and you're lying and you're relaxing, and you got all these undecided selves still spinning over here. This rat is wanting to deharmonize you big time, is wanting to harm you, is wanting to jack you up, okay? Not like... I don't know why I'm like waltzing around. Hello, hi, how are you? Hi, I'm Abbey. I even have like petals that I'm like, petals, 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 like this. And I'm like bowing to the rat. Nice to meet you. So, what you about? I'm like this. Okay. I am supposed to take my eyes and go like all over so that you are adopting my vision, okay? Even eyes for this you still spinning like a top. You are very not wanting to look at what is truly there, okay? You're not sure how to adjust your eyes. You're not sure how to work with your eyes. You're not sure what to do. And your eyes are becoming potatoes, okay, that were peeled. Peeled potatoes. So literally your eyeballs look like peeled potatoes. And they're raw. They're not like cooked in the fryer. They're like just potato eyes. And there's very much so a distortion between your mind and your body, and I mean, your whole vocal and self-expression system is very topsy-turvy. Is that where the top is coming from? The turvy and the spin? We are going to get this figured out, Delinda. We are going to get you taken care of. We're going to set you straight, okay? All right, let's see here. Oh man, this is gonna make me vomit. I am an observer self, observing everything going on here. And as I'm learning through looking and absorbing and understanding, I feel a big chunk. There's like a body in your stomach and it's all chunked up like a baby that was never born, and it's trying to barf out of your stomach, through your heart, through your throat, and out, okay? And it's very like the aborted fetus. It's, man, it's full of sorrow. It's very chunky. It's like a chunky soup, body parts, okay? And you have all additional selves that are screaming now, all around. This big rat is just like paused, okay? It's not the rat's turn to talk, so the rat's just like paused out as I'm analyzing everything, okay? And now these other yous are coming forward and they have no real body. They're just screams. They're like the four directions of sound. And they're like the banshee from hell screaming in every direction at the same time. And it's a bit odd, like still spinning. Oh, I've stopped spinning. Undecided, undecided, undecided. Ah! Ugly rat here, okay? Hello, how are you people? Oh, hi, I'm just da 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 da. And then here I am observing all this stuff, okay? I'm like really listening here. I have to figure out what to do to bring this all into balance. I don't know that the rat is all that important, per se. I'm still listening. I mean, we're looking at a lot of information, and how am I going to bring this into balance? All I can do is make the statement, I don't know. That is an answer too. I really like to emphasize that I don't know, when it is genuine, is also an answer. It's a valid answer. And so that's my next step, is to simply say, I've analyzed this. I'm echoing to you everything I see, hear, perceive, what I've discovered thus far. And at this present time, I don't know is the next step. And it's like, oh, I don't know why that took a big burden off your shoulders. Because the chunks of baby, the screaming, I mean, the sick, disgusting rat, the emanation of childhood, and these gross witches that eat children, like, and then these parts of you, undecided, like, hello, happiness is just, and then spin, you know, it's just a weird madhouse in here. But when the next step is, I don't know, for some reason it's like, oh, I guess it's okay to not know. It's almost like there's just, everything is just building upon building, and maybe there's just too many layers of insanity building up that are trying to come together, and it's just not coming together. And so the next step is literally the power statement of the I don't know. I don't know is a powerful place to be. Because when you desperately are trying to know and you're doing all the right things to figure it out, but nothing is coming, then the next step is the I don't know dimension, okay? And there's power to this too. All right. I'm going to have to, my guys are telling me I have to follow this one all the way through. So after the I don't know step, the next step that comes is some gross thing. Very much so reminds me of the rat, although it's still standing here. There's a big knife that kind of comes through and sort of starts swinging like this and is cutting. And it literally, I see it cutting from like the rib cage down the stomach and then opening up the stomach, and we see all the internal organs. And it's very fleshy. It's very ripping. It's very painful. I say I'm starting to understand now. All right, so we're going to follow this one all the way through, just as they said. The reason why is because we're going to have to go into what hurts the most here, and we're going to just say this is what hurts the most right now, so let's look at this, and we're going to slowly work through this spiral of stuff. Okay. I'm going to be both the person being cut open, I'm going to be the knife cutting open, I'm going to be the eyes that are perceiving, I'm going to be the ripping pain, I'm going to be all of these perceptions, all of these parts, okay? As the person, I say, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? And then another me says, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you just laying on this table, letting somebody rip you open? Why are you doing this to yourself? And then I see this really gross brain person is like, oh, cut, or rip, oh, body parts, oh, you're still alive, my precious. It's like this, okay? I say, do you want this? And gross brain guy, I mean, his head is made out of like ashy skin. It's very flaky, very dry and stretched. It's a off green color. It's a huge head that's the shape of a brain. It's on a very skinny neck. He has this doctor like evil style to him, and he's like, yes, I want this. But I kind of silence his voice because I need to make sure we're hearing the part of you that is saying, why are you doing this to me? Instead of saying, why are you doing this to me? You need to say, do you want this? Do you want this? She can't say no for some reason. Do you want this? Are you thinking that you're helping somebody that's actually harming you? Is doing you both of some sort of blessing? Because it's got to come back to you. The power is in you. You decide what you want. Do you want this? And the truth is, she does. She does want this. So if you want this, then why are you saying that? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you harming me? But you actually, beneath the surface of that statement, actually do want this. So why don't you just own it that you want to be cut and ripped open? I mean, there's no shame in that. And now you have these undecided selves are starting to appear. I don't know. It's like, why are they appearing? I just say, why are you suddenly appearing so that you can just say, I don't know. Undecided. They hate themselves, therefore they have to step outside of themselves and then say they don't know either. Like, I don't know now, instead of it being a power place, it's actually a place of strength beneath the surface is, I don't want to admit to what I do know. And in the scene, we're talking about self-love and self-value and what are we giving of ourself and what are we allowing of one to take away? And do we want that? Because I'm going to tell you what, sometimes we put ourselves in the pickle of the worst scenario and deep down inside we kind of knew this could happen and we still allowed it to kind of circulate in that direction. And now when it happens and then you cry and say, why is this happening to me? It's like, somewhere in the midst of your strong soul, this was perfect for you. This was actually exactly what you wanted. Now this scene, I have no idea how it actually relates, how this layer is relating to your human life right now, but we're talking about your inner collective selves. We're talking about what's going on beneath the surface of the conscious mind. So as we rehabilitate all these relationships, you're going to start to feel grounded, collected, and solid with a clear mind and a clear vision forward, okay? And the one thing's for sure, the world is going to say, nobody wants to be tortured. Nobody wants to be harmed. That's obvious. But yet we put ourselves in a situation where we allow these things to happen and then we cry about it later. So we did want it. It actually is more powerful to say I did want that than it is to say I never wanted that. Why is it happening to me? It's happening to you because you wanted it. Well, who would want that? You did. You wanted that. Well, why would I want that? Shh. Listen. Maybe you needed the pain for some reason. You wanted it. You wanted to be the chosen one. You wanted to endure the suffering and come out that much stronger. This is what the recipe for creating heroes and courageous people. But the more honest that we are, even with things that it seems insane, that the honest truth would be this, wow, it'll blow you away. It'll change your life. It'll strengthen you. She still is not able to stop. She could get up and leave at any time, and she just can't. She's already been reduced to just her ribs and up. The rest of her body has been removed, even from the table. And all these indecisive cells, I don't know, undecisive, like they're just like they're just this clutter of sound that doesn't, it's like just filling in the spaces. I say, how do you feel now? Are you okay with everything? there's a gross thing inside, and it's kind of like leeches, and they're squiggly, slippery, slimy. They're kind of like really massive tadpoles with black heads and black bodies, and they're squiggling out of the lungs, out of the throat, and out of her mouth. And she's just like this empty carcass now. And now this is interesting because she has no purpose anymore. This is just an empty carcass. It's almost like her consciousness, or what was driving the statements, or what was driving the inspiration, was this gross, slimy creature, which is like a couple of big fat leeches. But they're more like tadpoles, like really big tadpoles. And they keep doing this, like squirming around on the table. They can't exist without this body, and now they're completely exposed. And the big brain is seeing them. Oddly enough, the big brain is not interested in these things. And it's weird because they have weird eyes that are like, ooh, you won't hurt me. You won't hurt me. And their eyes start to become stars that like blink like, you won't hurt me. You won't hurt me. Almost like they've chosen this brain now to be their new body. But nothing happens, and they just start to dry up. And I start to see what is like a vapor in this air, and the sun and the stars are kind of collectively coming together without the universe. Like there's nothing of the night sky, it's just sun and stars, and the stars look like birds, and they're coming down to this with the table and these dried up sort of leeches and this big brain man, and then this half of this body chunk on the ground, okay? And all these undecisive selves are quiet. And God basically tells me to open the scene up. So I literally, it's like a balloon, and I just open the fabric of the scene up, and all this light comes in. And I see all of this is basically tears that aren't able to collect themselves properly and be released properly. And it just turns into this weird, messy soap opera. And it's about good and bad, and what do I want, what don't I want, and how do I get what I want, and deception and suffering. And all it is just, it's just really emotions that need to kind of come into a harmonious oneness so they can properly be felt and released. This is weird. It's like it basically, it's like a bubble in your energy field. I don't know that it relates to any specific chakra, or it relates to all chakras. It definitely relates to your balance. And it's like a cyst that it literally is. It looks like there's your energy field, and there's this squishy ball here, and this is what I'm opening up, and the light is coming in and touching everything on the inside of it. It's finally silent. But this is the next part, because I see that there's white and there's black, and you're made out of white, and somehow the black is your blood, and it's draining out of your face, and it's sort of pooling downward instead of coming up and around, okay? And you feel sick to your stomach, and you've got butterflies in your stomach, and you just feel like you're gonna vomit. And it's a worthlessness also. It's a sensation of worthlessness. And it's so loud that it is on the level of wanting to vomit. I want to just tell you something that okay, what I'm walking into, it's not your everyday stuff, okay? And yet it is. However, for me to access this means that you're going through a major sort of rebirth event. And when you go through a major rebirth event, everything gets weird and it gets messy and it gets confusing, and it's almost like the vacuum of life. We've sucked all this stuff inside ourselves, but now we're kind of rebirthing, awakening, raising our vibration, and we're going to barf out the things that we don't need. But really, it's just going to transform, okay, in the process of releasing back to source or wherever the material needs to go. But you're going to feel cleaner and more adapted to yourself, more adapted to your chakras and your light and your voice and your dreams and visions. But you've got to get through that clunky time. You're going to have a clunky time in there, okay? Because there's a major purge thing that has to happen. And all this stuff that just got all your life, like all this stuff you brought in through not really knowing, because we're all human, and then it's like from human to ascended master through human, okay? From human to ascended master through human. You have to release that you have to release that chunky, gross stuff, okay? And as that releases out, it's going to confuse everything. It's going to get emotionally derailing, confusing, can't hear what the real truth is. I got to depend on this silent strength and survival of what I know is right, and I can't really tell inside because inside is going through all this stuff. That's what this reminds me of. All right. Because me just coming across a squishy ball cyst in your aura, and it's derailing your whole balance, is not common, okay? Because your aura is an infinite universe, like going through the chakras. So just, it's like, this is a unique thing. Yeah, again, just me saying all that stuff, we're actually reaching, again, more breathable, more quiet, clear, more sensible, more yourself, okay, kind of feeling. That white and the black blood and all that is not really, doesn't really compute anymore. We've moved through that. Let me just go back to the original scene. Does any of that compute? Are we reaching yet the next layer? Like, what do I do next? Okay, so everything we've seen thus far, we're literally just fanning it out like it's some stinky air. So we're just fanning it out so we can start with some fresh information, okay? That was really important that I found that and just worked through it. So let me see. This is very, very complicated. Another one, okay? You are still spinning and you are not going to stop. But I find it interesting because you don't have to. But the fact that you're identifying yourself as spinning and you're telling me that you don't have to stop, like, I can do what I want and I'm not going to stop. It's like, but why are you spinning? And why does it matter whether I know if you're going to stop or not? And it's like, well, you forced me to stop and I said I wasn't going to. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Something's changing because it's about the heart. And part of this slowing down is actually avoiding emotions that have to be felt. And so when we slow this down, now the spinning is the action, right? That is helping to override the emotions that have to be felt. So as the spinning slows, now we start to hear the sound of ourself and our heart and our feelings. And this is sensitive. This is ridiculously sensitive stuff. And you have created quite a fascinating geometric shape. I mean, we're talking sacred geometry, but it's like I have got to go through these pockets here because they're not open. Oh, let's just say we're dealing with let's take a cross. Literally, it's not like a T, it's like a perfect X, okay? But it's a cross. It's made out of cubes, equal amounts of cubes, and then in the center there's a cube. And these cubes are not open to each other, nor are they open to what's out there. They're just closed off spaces that contain pockets of information, and these pockets of information aren't sharing, they're not opening up, they're not receiving from the outside. This is a contained space. And I see this is also in conjunction with the layers of stuff that we're running into, okay? This is not your everyday stuff, okay? There's definitely a unique thing going on for you, which to me is very symbolic of your raising your vibration and you're accessing the next level of your ascended master self. And when that happens, it derails the balance of everything. Everything gets weird, okay? And you feel it and experience it and live in it as a human. And it affects your thought process, it affects your energy level, it affects how happy or not happy you are, it affects everything. And that is like you're almost like in the stomach of an event, but you're actually pushing out the butt of what you once were, not as a poop that we need to flush, but as this like super bright light that the old self couldn't digest it anymore. You had to raise your vibration and become the expression of some higher vibration. Like this is a weird process. It's like a human ascension symptoms type thing. Okay. I'm looking at the shape. I'm listening to a lot, okay? Because there's so many layers here, and I mean, we really have to come heart to heart with everything in order for it to find its next step, its next direction, and for you to decide and have access to the decision of what you want to do with this too. This shape thing is vibrationally is bothersome, okay? It's I mean, the word bad it's like it's a bad thing. You don't want, this is so closed off and it's so rejecting of what's out there. It's lacking in breath. It's holding its breath. It's ego-based. It's also scary, okay? And because I'm opening the door and I feel like I'm walking into a horror movie. There's another movie coming up. Like, isn't there a movie about like you're stuck in a big cube in outer space, but you don't know it, and you have to get through these many rooms, and each room has like it could either be the right room where nothing bad happens, or the wrong room where your worst nightmare happens. And it's hard to get out or move through these rooms in order to get out of this cube, which in the end you're kind of like imprisoned in the universe. It's like the worst kind of hell, okay? So now we're on the second movie here. We're talking about hell, okay? We're talking about really awful witches that eat children. We're talking about being trapped in a cube that is doing the hellish like stuff to you, okay? It's pure white. Every shape is pure white. They're all pretty much cubed shapes that come together to create this one shape here. And it's slowly rotating in space. I'm knocking on the door on the outside, but I'm looking through it and I'm like, wow, what a monkey sideshow. Like, it's a maze. It's messed up in here. It's the worst kind of hell. And I have to somehow open this up and help it to feel safe with a different flow of energy. I'm going to bring your consciousness in here and I'm going to ask you, what do you think? You have potatoes in your eyes still. And I see the rat is the rat king. It's the rat king is a really awful thing. And I see you kneeling before this rat king with potatoes in your eyes. And you refuse to see what I see here about this. This rat has really long, sharp claws, like a wolverine, like it's gonna slice and dice you. And I find that we're working our way back to the chopping block with the weird leeches again and the big brain. And this is a pretty difficult circulating space. You can't really argue with that. This is a really shameful thing. And you are actually able to talk to me about it. You say one of the most shameful things that could ever happen to any human being in any lifetime is when you have to bow down and agree to do what the most evil person wants to do, or else. And you know the or else means the end of your kids' lives. It means you're tortured. It means, and you find that to be shameful when you have to get on your knees and bow before this rat king. But yet you have to do it in order to save your own skin, so to speak, or save the skin of family or friends. Like, you could be threatened. I shrug my shoulders. I mean, I don't blame anybody. I think that in that situation, either choice, I really understand both sides of those choices. I don't think less of you bowing before this rat king. And you say, but no, I do not bow before evil. That evil then stands stronger than me. I bow before evil because I am afraid of death, or I'm afraid of how death will harm those I love, because I myself can't cope with seeing harm done to those I love. So I am weak. This is really important. Okay. And I see the eyes removed and potatoes put in place of the eyeballs. I see little parts of the body being removed, like one ear, a nose eventually gets removed, a little bit of a tongue, a little bit of the lip, like one pinky finger. And it might not even be the whole one, it might just be the top, and just slowly but surely being cut down to death. You're being slowly but surely cut into pieces until you're dead. And it's like once a day you get to go in to have something removed. And you'll slowly but surely be cut into pieces over the course of years even. And the Rat King. I show you that I sense it. I do feel that this Rat King represents something vicious, something evil, something bad. It's very reflective of that strange cube space. But I also feel that I don't really feel a relationship with it. I don't feel vulnerable to it. I just, like, I want you to just stand up. You say you can't, and your legs are in a big trap, okay? Like you stepped into a bear trap. And you're forever on your knees in pain. I say, okay. But let's just see, we're looking at what is happening to you, but we aren't seeing the soul of this Rat King. Because the severe harm that is done outside of oneself by your own choices. So this Rat King soul is choosing to severely and detrimentally harm others. We as human beings can't see the path of that soul and how that is going to reflect back into that soul's learning. All we see is that the soul needs to stop right now, not that the soul has to work through that learning. Because when the damage is done to you and you can't get out of it, it's hard. It's hard on every single level. But that soul will have to reconcile all of that. It's inevitable. It has to. You're starting to barf out more chunks of babies, like baby parts. You barf it out. And you say that you don't know if you can handle this much longer, and you just keep puking out more and more baby parts. And you're extremely weak, and you collapse to the ground. And you turn white with black blood, and the blood is pooling, okay? Again, vibrationally, I can't really talk to this rat because there's no emanation and no echo. It's almost like I'm talking to the wall or something. And vibrationally, then that means that it's not important for me to talk to this rat because it's literally it's not vibrating anything but what we're learning through the experience is more important, more vibrationally valued. So I time out our side of the story, and I'm gonna turn time on with this rat. And everybody's like, no, don't turn time on for this rat. And I say, oh, that's right, I did stop time. And the rat was just paused out. But I feel like we gotta follow this thing all the way through. I'm just creating slow motion. And the rat is pulling in from every disgusting vein in the universe, is pulling in power and pulling it inside of this rat self. And is taking pleasure in doing great deal of harm and damage, and pulls from that place of pain and pulls it into the energy of the spirit. And the spirit becomes intoxicated with basically God force, God power. Because you can kill somebody. It's a choice, right? I don't recommend it. But we have a choice. We can choose to say this or say nothing at all. We can choose to hurt people or not hurt people. We can choose whatever we want to choose in this life, and then we decide what it means to us afterward. And there's something about what this emanates that when it takes the life of another, it gains that person's life force energy inside of itself, and it becomes more powerful because it can play God. Because it can decide who gets to live and who doesn't. So now, like, let's just round up 1 million people, and then it can just mow them down with a machine gun or something, and then it pulls all of that suffering. But what emanates is that it doesn't want to just kill people; it wants to torture people, so the suffering is prolonged, and it can gain even more power from that. It's like the power to choose to help somebody. But the difference is, I'm not feeding off of that. I'm just doing it as an equal thing. Like, hey, what can I do to help? Okay, here you go. Because I can. But this thing is like feeding off of what it is achieving here, okay? Because there's a bit of ego involved in that. It's like, oh, look, the suffering that I'm doing to you. Like, I'm so awesome. But it's also spirit level stuff. Like, it's bringing in the energy of what its choices are, and it's finding rejoice in that. I see that now your stomach is being stapled and your mouth is being stapled shut. You look so weird. Because it's almost like you get cut open and a small snip from your liver is removed. And then you're stapled back together again. Like, it's just fun to see how long you'll last. That's what this rat is like, okay? No wonder it stopped time. And so I'm going to put the consciousness of the rat into a form of yourself, as in you're going to carry this energy and you're going to take it. This is what I'm being shown, okay? So let's just hear me out on this and we'll talk our way through it. I see you as like a time capsule, okay? And in the time capsule, we have acquired the soul that has gone out of control, okay? So we've contained it inside the time capsule. You just happen to be you're the reflection of the time capsule, the structure, okay? It's not like you're a real body and a real person, a real human, but they're saying that you're the time capsule. And inside is this terrifyingly horrific, dark, foul nightmare. And you are carrying this time capsule into this horrifying hell through these cubes, okay, this horrific space, and you are enduring going through this with this thing forced to go through it with you. And it's such a insecure weakling that it becomes these strange like leeches, so that it doesn't have to feel the pain, that only you will feel the pain, and it never will. But you are determined to ensure that this thing meets its maker, as in sees into its own eyes its horrific deeds, and now must endure the same. In order for it to bounce back or to balance with or to become the extraordinary benevolence and Christ consciousness of itself. And you are taking it upon yourself to be the time capsule that is going to help the soul. What's interesting is I see you are the mirror that as small parts of yourself are being removed, this thing is also removing small parts of itself through you, but refuses to wake up to that reality yet. And I don't know how many times you've had to endure this with this soul, but you are, I don't know, are you getting there? Like, I go back to the chopping block and I asked the girl, well, is this what you want? Do you want to be cut into pieces? Yes, silently, I really actually do. Well, okay then. And I guess that's what you want. You want to help this soul. So you're going to go through all this horrific stuff to help this soul because that's the Christ consciousness spirit within you. And who's to say that this isn't a reflection of your dark side? That this isn't somehow you, but you're completely cut off from it because it's not who this side of the soul chooses to be. Is the angel, and it's the devil side, okay? But the angel has to face the devil. The devil has to be faced by the angel in order for these two to work through their issues. Now, we have to do this in the human world, and we have to do this inside ourselves, and we have to do this in the universe. Because dark stuff is going to get messy, and then you have to challenge it, or you just become its chopping block, like you just become diced, but you're still challenging it even then, because through you then it will find itself. No wonder I mean, you're actually processing this hardcore information through your human self and everyday life. You must be derailed by something. But something is also activating you to be able to access this to derail you, which is trying to get your attention about it. But how are you going to actually know what the heck's going on? You simply, this is interesting. We're going to do two paths because you say, what do I do? And I say, okay, we're going to go the path of you're asking the question, what do you do? And then we're going to go the path of you already know what to do. Okay, so the I don't know is also a path. What do I do? We don't even take that I don't know. That's the end. That's the beginning and the end of that road. And then we wait for the next thing, right? So now the next thing, what do I do? Okay, what does she do? They say it's inevitable. Like it's inevitable. The steps and the processes are always inevitable, even if your human mind can't conceive of it. It's like you will inevitably work through this thing. And you will inevitably be drawn to it or not drawn to it, react to it in this specific way for these specific reasons that you won't really consciously understand. You might even at the highest realms put yourself in harm's way in order to, for some reason that is profoundly important in the infinite universe and the massive domino effect in ways we couldn't understand. And we would point our fingers and say, oh, that's terrible. But if you were to look at it from the highest realms, you say, wow, what a hero, what a courageous soul. Wow, that soul is actually trying to reach that other soul mowing you down, ripping you apart. But you're still the one that's there. You're still the one that's enriching that soul's life because you're willing to face it where others cannot. So what do? You don't have to know what you do. Literally, because it's not going to ever really be, it's like, know that you want these experiences for the most profound reasons and that your higher self has got this one. And just allow things to circulate and to flow, and you know what to do even when you don't know what to do. Even when you say, what do I do? You are going to do it whether you understand it or not. All right, let's go and say you do know what to do. Let's see what this path looks like. You say, I feel better when I acknowledge I do know what to do. And you say that the part of you that says I don't know what to do is really the one that doesn't want to go through the chamber of hell. And by saying I don't know what to do is biding my time. And so when I just own it that I do know what to do, now I find myself at the door and I find myself going in and I'm carrying this horrible energy and I cannot stop trying. I say, I think that I'm figuring something else out that might be new. Because we're really holding on to the detriment and the suffering and the pain, which is part of this thing. So we have to go with the happy and the throwing of the petals, and that's the energy we need to face this thing with. And we need to touch its body. We need to look into its eyes, and we need to hold it. And I don't know why, but we're going in through like a quantum leap, a blip, because that space and all of this suffering is like this massive soul wound, and we're blipping beyond it because you've already worked through this. This is already really old, and you've already worked through this whole flipping thing. You already achieved everything about it. We're going to go to the blip, and then we're going to see yourself, and we're going to see what happened to the Rat King, because all of this is done. There's nothing else you need to do. So we're still living in the horror of what you went through because it was horrific, and it's taken your soul a long time to work through all these echoes of suffering that you put yourself through in order to help this Rat King. And what does this Rat King do in the end but be the Rat King? Eventually, though, you separate, that Rat King has to go their own way. So let's get up to speed with time. You say that there's too many memories that are hard to let go of. That's true. And we're looking at, like, we look at the sky and we see stars, and it's like we see stars from this vantage point looking down, but all these parts of your soul that were really traumatized by trying to help this other soul that just got freaking craving, basically consuming soul energy. It's just went nuts in that way. And you say, because time is like always, because I can feel you're still working through as though those events had not even started. You're in the middle of it and it's over, and you're still working through like the soul level post-traumatic stress. And so all of these like blips in time are still actively happening because you haven't been able to fully reconcile all of this. Again, I'm telling you, this is not common stuff. Something going on in your life is opening up this pocket, and it's huge. And it's quite a lot for a human being to even have to sort through. It's amazing, really. And I say, who are you now? Because we're looking down, but we're kind of looking up. And I say, just be, it's like, what words are going to work here? It's just like, value your incredibleness and let those parts of you go. Just let the whole thing go. Like you still have strings attached to another world, another time, another universe, and it's old and it died a long time ago. And it just, you need to let those threads go and bring all that energy back to yourself. You're accomplishing it. You're doing it. The Rat King is still a mystery here because I can't hear the sound of it. I tell you, who's this Rat King? Because I still feel there's a major block or separation. And maybe you've decided for your well-being. So if you decided for your well-being, then there's no block or separation. It's just your choice. It's not a choice based on vulnerability. It's just simply a choice. And that choice isn't a block. It's just simply a choice. It's what you want or what you don't want. It's like when this choice has strings attached, that means there's a lot of unresolved emotion. But we're going to breathe everything in divine time. But let's be aware of this. This is the next thing, okay? Because we're going to just stay with it. We're in a big, massive, like ornate room, but it's full of mirrors. And it's kind of like this big open, it's like a room of royalty, but it's the floor, the ceiling, the walls, and are all made out of mirrors. It's very open, but they're rectangular shaped mirrors. And there's just too many memories, and you're just crying. And I say, maybe to heal this big bullet hole kind of scenario, because it's a fabric of your soul, it's a fabric of yourself, it's a fabric of time. You're just a human being. This is just like, you're just a human being. What if you're just meant to feel groggy and sad and confused? And a lot of these ways is actually going to, again, help you work through this. It's like an ascension symptom, okay? because it's very confusing, it's very extreme, very derailing for all your chakras and your aura. How is a human being to really understand that? And how is that really going to digest around and within you? It's going to be really messy. And so you're surrounded by support, just that loving support, like that super awesome hug. Because that super awesome hug expresses that you're being nurtured, you're being valued, you're deeply understood, and you just need that right now. But what's interesting is after you get that hug, you say, this is too empty, or it's too much about me. The space is, it feels empty, but yet it's full of you, reflections of you. And it's like the photo album you pull out sometimes and you look through it and it makes you cry, and then you don't look at it again for 5 years or something. And this is like the photo album of your soul and stuff that was really hard on your soul. You're just having like a memory lane time. And you want to go to a beautiful nature scene. And so you do, and I hear the sound of running, like moving water, and I hear sounds of birds and sounds of insects and nature. And there's trees, and there's a beautiful balance between the shade and the light, and it's a nice temperature. You feel really harmonious here. And you feel this is actually quite good, and this is really good. You show me you with the potato eyes and the staples and the slow cutting away. And you don't feel like immersed in it. You actually are seeing it through the screen kind of thing. But what you're doing is you're taking all that horrific stuff that we saw and you're merging it with this harmonious space, and you're honoring the dark and the light sides, and the harmonious balance is the all consciousness, is the gift, is the beauty, is the benevolence, is the Christ consciousness, is the wholeness. Because we can't be whole without every side of the spectrum, is what brings us into a wholeness. I feel like that Rat King is a reflection of like a part of your own soul that is defined as your brother, okay? And I see that you love your brother very much, and you go and you give him a hug and you say you'll never give up on him, and you don't care how long it takes, and you don't care what you have to go through. And you look at the part of yourself that felt shame, and you say that you just simply didn't understand, because at that time sometimes you need to break from the torture, and so you just become kind of like the innocent bystander and try to juggle through it as best you can, and sometimes you will put yourself in harm's way to make a statement, and your soul will intuitively know what choice to make, and you made the right choice every time, even if it's not really you, or why didn't I stand up, why did I bow down. It just trust in your intuitive instinct. And there's no coward here. And you are acknowledging that. And I see that your brother, one of his greatest challenges is giving in, because he will have to face what you could only describe as everything he did was wrong, therefore he was wrong. And what he put you through, he will have to reconcile that inside of himself based upon how he judges himself. And the further you go down that dark rabbit hole, the harder it is to get out, because you'll have to reconcile so much more, and the suffering of that path is great. But that's how you rebirth souls from, that's how incredible balanced dark and light souls come about. I mean, there's a reason why they emanate a very dark side and a very light side, and that they're harmoniously balanced with both. Metatron is really a reflection of this. Extremely dark, extremely light, and everything in between, and extraordinarily balanced with both. And so souls go down that dark, twisted path, and they find a way to come out of it. That some souls don't. But where he's silently thanking you for everything you've been through for him. It makes you cry and weep, because it's like the only thing you ever wanted to hear was just thank you. Because that would mean that he finally understood, and that there was no then harm done. Because all was forgiven for you instantaneously. And that emanates back to him. And he starts to cry. Because he can't, at this dimensional plane, he can't, it's not easy to love yourself after you do that. But I see that you're allowing him the space and the learning that he needs, not because you're going to be there for him throughout thick or thin. Like, some of this is going to need some time to himself, to figure it out for himself. And that is love too. And I see you even going up to a much higher vantage point, even above this dimensional space. And I see you merging with the star, and you going into a time of rest. And it's almost like nothing's really coming in or out, because it's just a silent, clear space, but it's also a bit, it's a rest space. There's nothing really to do or to think or to know. There's no real action to take other than to basically do a massive download or sleep, or, I mean, you're going to come out of the cocoon a butterfly, okay? A lot more is happening in that rest state than you can imagine, but it's going to feel like a silent place. And it's very, very good, and it's wholesome, and it's full of support, and it's like sleeping in a star. It's freaking awesome. My God, what a path, huh? What a path. Hard to know what it all means, right? You got to work your way through it, and you got to do the best that you can with it, and let it reveal more and more of itself. Until now, you find your way in resting in a star. Just kind of seeing if there's anything else here. Okay, there is something else, because I literally, this is all like a ladder of ascension. Okay, it's like all these stepping stones, but we're sort of going up. It's like the pyramid of enlightenment. Okay, so every layer, everything I've seen, like what I walk into at first and how we work through it, all the layers that are revealing themselves, even the separation, and then the sort of the strings that we're holding on to that old universe, and the work on letting go, and then the coming into just awareness and acceptance and honoring the truth that you did want this experience. Because even beneath the surface of that is I'm trying to reach the soul, to help the soul. So yes, I want to put myself in harm's way, because that was the only way that you were able to reach the soul on the level that you could reach it, because you cared that much. So that is what's beneath the surface of some of the situations we get ourselves into. And you know more than you would lead on, but sometimes we'll just not know. So what I'm to do is to integrate all these paths as one like energy body, and harmonize that so it's really grounded in this moment of divine truth. And your human life and your life path is about moments of divine truth and bliss and awakening, and the meaning and even the hardship of acquiring that. it's a gold medal champion right here. You know, that's what, so your path is like, you're like a gold medal champion, because these are hard decisions to make. This is profound, okay? This is a long time. This is unimaginably long time. And so we're integrating that into your human self, and also the rest space. And what all of this means is coming together as like a nice fresh breath of air. The hardest parts that were not understood, the challenging, the suffering that you went through, the time of separation and coming into reconciliation, the communication between your brother, his awareness as you move beyond, like resting in the star. Like, this is infinite time here. And you're tripping into this because you needed to know about this. You need to feel about this and transmute it here at this human level in this moment of time. Integrating it all in, working with it, and finding empowerment and self-love and love for all souls, and understanding of infinite time, and rehabilitation of your body and your mind, your spirit, your chakras, all that, helping you to feel grounded and tuned into this incredible divine truth. And you are a reflection of this. Way more grounded, way more, you might feel pretty darn tired after this. Way more yourself, to be honest. Incredible. Man, what a blessing. That was just awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to impact your soul in this way, and thank you for sharing. It's hard to know where these things are going. But it's amazing what you discover as you get there. Isn't that life in a nutshell? Thank you again. Thank you everybody for watching. Have an amazing day.